She was Ann Coulter with a cleaner mouth and more sensible shoes, but no less vinegar. In a world in which we no longer flip-flop but evolve, Phyllis Schlafly never did either. From her teased-and-sprayed updo to her gleeful guerrilla tactics, deploying IEDs with a smile and a box of brownies, she never saw any need to change. If constancy is what conservatism is all about, then the anti-feminist from Alton, who died at 92 on Monday, personified it to the end. Yet for a woman critics saw as determined to be stuck in the past, she was also well ahead of her time, obsessed with potty politics and who could use which bathroom back when nobody else thought this could ever be an issue. A pioneer of political direct mail and early supporter of both Barry Goldwater and Donald Trump, she was Ann Coulter with a cleaner mouth and more sensible shoes, but no less vinegar for her adversaries. She was also consistent in her inconsistencies, a Radcliffe grad who railed against the elite, a public person who said mothers should stay at home, a lawyer and lobbyist of means who argued against the need for child care even though her own mother worked as a librarian and a teacher to support their family during the Depression. So who took care of Schlafly's 6 children, I wondered even as a kid myself, while she was in Springfield and Washington. The first of more than 24 books, her 1964 anti-GOP establishment manifesto A Choice Not an Echo was required reading in my southern Illinois home, and so was her monthly newsletter. It was so full of talk about perversions I would never have thought of on my own that you couldn't have kept it away from me. Every year on my birthday since I was little, my Aunt Jenny had given me a fork, knife or spoon in my mother's silver pattern. This early action on cutlery was not as appreciated then as it is now, sorry, Jen, but it did make her gift on my 13th birthday even more memorable. Thanks to her, I'm confident that I was the only 7th grader at St. Mary's School whose first subscription in her own name wasn't to Highlights or 17 but to the Phyllis Schlafly Report, from which I learned about the temptations of the Trilateral Commission, the folly of doubting our involvement in Vietnam, and the sexual assaults in bathrooms and on battlefields that would surely follow passage of the Equal Rights Amendment, which she almost single-handedly defeated from her mansion in Alton. I also learned a lot about what one stubborn soul can accomplish through persistence and the willingness to be laughed at, and about the power of propaganda based on the half-truths she gave every indication of believing in full. In recent years in particular, Schlafly suffered the setbacks that come with staying on the national stage for 7 decades. Accused of bias against her oldest son after he was outed as gay, she struggled to stay relevant to a generation of conservative women who see no contradiction in the term pro-life feminist. But it was her endorsement of Trump that caused a split in her own organization, with several Legal Forum board members, including her own daughter, strongly dissenting. In her full-throated support of the former Democrat, Schlafly damaged her legacy by falling for so plain and non-conservative, the Andy Goldwater, who seems to hold no non-negotiable belief other than in himself. Perhaps after backing a series of what Trump would delight in calling losers, from Steve Forbes to Michelle Bachmann, Schlafly wanted to be reminded of what it felt like to support someone who might win the White House. But for an activist whose top issue was always fighting abortion rights, her final paradox had to be backing a contender who had clearly given the matter so little thought that he initially believed Republicans wanted to hear that women who have abortions should be punished. Even his conversion story, that he became pro-life after a friend who considered abortion had the baby and that child grew up to be a superstar, undercuts the very basis of the pro-life movement, that all lives, including those of people the world very much does not see as superstars, are of an equal value not based on physical beauty, financial holdings or metrics of any kind. Unlike Trump, Phyllis Schlafly never quit or amended anything. For me, her final lesson is that we all have our contradictions, whether we recognize them or not.